Exodus 8. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh and say to him, 'This is what the Lord says. Let my people go, so that they may worship me. If you refuse to let them go, I will send a plague of frogs on your whole country. The Nile will teem with frogs. They will come up into your palace and your bedroom, and onto your bed, into the houses of your officials and on your people, and into your ovens and kneading troughs. The frogs will come up on you and your people and all your officials." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron, stretch out your hand with your staff over the streams and canals and ponds, and make frogs come up on the land of Egypt." So Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land. But the magicians did the same things by their secret arts. They also made frogs come up on the land of Egypt. Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Pray to the Lord to take the frogs away from me and my people, and I will let your people go to offer sacrifices to the Lord." Moses said to Pharaoh, I leave to you the honor of setting the time for me to pray for you and your officials and your people, that you and your houses may be rid of the frogs, except for those that remain in the Nile. "Tomorrow," Pharaoh said. Moses replied, "It will be as you say, so that you may know there is no one like the Lord our God. The frogs will leave you and your houses, your officials, and your people. They will remain only in the Nile." After Moses and Aaron left Pharaoh, Moses cried out to the Lord about the frogs he had brought on Pharaoh, and the Lord did what Moses asked. The frogs died in the houses, in the courtyards, and in the fields. They were piled into heaps, and the land reeked of them. But when Pharaoh saw that there was relief, he hardened his heart and would not listen to Moses and Aaron, just as the Lord had said. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron, stretch out your staff and strike the dust of the ground, and throughout the land of Egypt the dust will become gnats." They did this, and when Aaron stretched out his hand with the staff and struck the dust of the ground, gnats came on people and animals. All the dust throughout the land of Egypt became gnats. But when the magicians tried to produce gnats by their secret arts, they could not. Since the gnats were on people and animals everywhere, the magicians said to Pharaoh, "This is the finger of God." But Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he would not listen, just as the Lord had said. And the Lord said to Moses, "Get up early in the morning and confront Pharaoh as he goes to the river, and say to him, 'This is what the Lord says. Let my people go, so that they may worship me. If you do not let my people go, I will send swarms of flies on you and your officials, on your people, and into your houses. The houses of the Egyptians will be full of flies, even the ground will be covered with them. But on that day I will deal differently with the land of Goshen, where my people live. No swarms of flies will be there, so that you will know that I, the Lord, am in this land. I will make a distinction between my people and your people. This sign will occur tomorrow." And the Lord did this. Dense swarms of flies poured into Pharaoh's palace and into the houses of his officials. Throughout Egypt, the land was ruined by the flies. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Go sacrifice to your God here in the land." But Moses said, "That would not be right. The sacrifices we offer the Lord our God would be detestable to the Egyptians, and if we offer sacrifices that are detestable in their eyes, will they not stone us? We must take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God, as he commands us." Pharaoh said, "I will let you go to offer sacrifices to the Lord your God in the wilderness, but you must not go very far. Now pray for me." Moses answered, "As soon as I leave you, I will pray to the Lord, and tomorrow the flies will leave Pharaoh and his officials and his people." Only let Pharaoh be sure that he does not act deceitfully again by not letting the people go to offer sacrifices to the Lord." Then Moses left Pharaoh and prayed to the Lord, and the Lord did what Moses asked. The flies left Pharaoh and his officials and his people. Not a fly remained. But this time also Pharaoh hardened his heart and would not let the people go.
The first one is plague. Now this is very strategic word, what plague means. And it means, and you need to know what it means in order to appreciate the passages, because in chapter 7 we started getting into the plagues. Remember, what was the first plague that we encountered? Yeah?
Between the river water and the blood.
Into blood, right? Okay. So that was the first one. We're going to do number 2, 3, and 4 today. We're going to do fish, lice, and flies. Okay? So those are the ones we're going to tackle today. So a plague, and I went by definition, a plague is a widespread disease that brings a high rate of deaths or destruction. Can you think of something today that might be? Ebola, right? Okay. This would be a definition, follow the definition of a plague, isn't it?
It's not yet.
Yeah.
Plague.
It's not quite.
Is it?
It's not quite there, but it's bringing death and destruction, right? A plague is pretty up there. Back in the 1885, there was the bubonic plague. It was named as a plague, and it attacked people's lymph nodes, and it made them swell up and kill them. And it was a huge thing that happened many years ago. But there's other meanings of the word plague too. Like a plague is something like a disease or a disaster or something, but it has different meanings too. Like you can be plagued by someone. Okay, Seacat maybe likes ice cream a lot, and he's sitting there having all this ice cream, and I keep saying, Seacat, can I have some ice cream? And you're just, no. And every day he sits down and has ice cream. And I keep asking him every day, can I have some ice cream? And he denies me this ice cream. And I ask him for a week, and it goes on like this, and it goes on for a month. And I ask him every day. By this time he's gained about 200 pounds. But, but that's plaguing somebody. I'm plaguing him to give me some ice cream. So that there is that aspect of plague too. Another meaning of plague is a worry. Like, what are you worried about? Sometimes we get worried about things that just, I don't know, is that going to work out? Or I've got a paper due at school, or I have somebody at work who's really bothering me, and you're plagued by that situation. So that's another meaning. So both three meanings of plague. But the one that we're going to study tonight is the bad kind, where it's disease and it's nasty destruction and death, okay? All right, now here's the big word of the day, okay? Sovereign. Sovereign. Okay? Sovereign's a big word in this story tonight. So does anybody have any idea what sovereign, I mean, Stephen Harper talks about Canada being sovereign in the Arctic. Canada will exercise its sovereignty in the Arctic. The Queen of England is sovereign over the United Kingdom.
The right to control something?
Okay?
Yeah, the power, the right to power.
Yeah. They exercise a lot of power, unlimited power over something, okay? So sovereignty, from the person who is the one who holds the power is called the sovereign. Okay? So that's important to remember that word in this passage tonight too. Now there's one that comes up here. I must confess I don't totally understand how hardening of the heart. It's not a physical thing, but God hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and Pharaoh hardened his own heart. So can anybody suggest what that might mean when God hardens a person's heart? Does he take the guy's heart out and put it in a bucket of concrete and then let it set? Is that what hardening of the heart is, or what happens here? Stubbornness.
Don't listen to him.
Don't listen to him. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So even no matter what happens, the person still keeps that position. It's really a lot about stubbornness and won't be persuaded. Okay, all right. So we have two examples of that in the beginning in chapters. Well, I think it's in chapter 7. We see God hardening Pharaoh's heart, and then in chapter 8, we see Pharaoh hardening his own heart. Okay, and but why would God do that? You know, why would He harden Pharaoh's heart? That's the big question. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But it's a good question. Why God has these purposes of hardening someone's heart? Okay, so if you see that term, pay attention because it's significant. Okay, do you want to give me in your own words what's happening here? I mean, my observation is that Pharaoh, what a nasty guy. Okay, what else do you guys see?
Quite surprisingly, the Pharaoh asked a prayer.
To intercede for him, yes.
Yeah. Surprisingly that.
You wonder if he's maybe getting an idea who this Yahweh is, this Jehovah God is. He's getting a feel for him. Okay. Yeah. Anything else?
I think this time the flies only happens in the area of Egyptians, not in the area of Israel's. So probably the last 2 times it happened everywhere. So there's a distinction this
Yeah.
time. So it's a more clear sign from God.
Yeah. Yeah. God can geographically move His plague wherever He wants to.
So I have a question about what did Aaron strike his staff against the ground in front of Pharaoh and his magicians, that they tried to do the same, right? Because they tried to emulate. Did they only try to emulate what they saw, or did they actually try to use their staffs also? Like, is this all in front of
For the gnats? Or for
right, for the gnats and
Yeah, apparently they tried. It didn't say if I suppose this was all done. It's not really clear where they were. We were assuming that they were in the same place. He announced the frogs and that.
it must be continuing from the staff, right? When
Yeah.
Aaron's staff became a snake and then
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's probably the tool he uses to.
It's in front of them.
He stretched out his. We read about him stretching out his rod over certain things, and things happened. Yeah, I really don't know if that's terribly clear. Maybe different translations would might clear it up as stretched, or he tapped, or
I think it's continued from chapter 7, where
Yeah.
his staff became a snake
Yeah.
in front of him, and then the magicians.
Yeah, they all tried to imitate it, and there were some things they could do and some things they couldn't. Yeah. Okay. Why? Let's ask a question. Why are these plagues significant? Put yourself in Egypt. Try to place yourself in Egypt. We talked a little bit about the Nile and that kind of stuff last week. And put yourself in God's position. Why He brought these particular plagues? We're going to talk about these 3 that we've just read about. Why these ones? I mean, if this was Ontario, and we were joking about this earlier, why didn't God send raccoons, for instance, to mess with your garbage cans or something? Why frogs? Yeah. Anybody remember what we talked about last week? What the significance of frogs were?
Yeah.
Egyptians, they don't eat a frog.
They worship.
Worship the frog, right? Okay. Right. And they even had frog gods. Remember the two frog? We had 2 frog gods there. I had to write it down. Happy was the one god, but that was more of the Nile worship. Yeah, Happy the god.
I thought you said Hoppy.
Hoppy, yeah. Hoppy the frog god. Wouldn't that be a misnomer? That would be a bad name for a frog god, Hoppy. Yeah, okay. It's pretty funny. All right, but there are 2 gods. I had to write these guys down. It's Heket and Pum. They were a husband-wife frog god team. Okay, they were the frog team, and the Egyptians worshipped these 2. In fact, they wore bracelets and necklaces around them with little frog emblems on them. Some people have a little stone in here with their girlfriend or boyfriend. They had frogs hung around their neck and on their bracelets. And so they were really into this frog worship, right? So that's why it's significant. God makes all these frogs. You want your frog gods? Here they are. And then the magicians, they make more of them. And then if I was Pharaoh, I would have kicked them around the block because they made so many more, they made it even worse. And they couldn't get rid of them, but God could. Yeah, so anyway, I would have fired my magicians. But just imagine dealing with so many frogs. And it said it covered the land. Like Egypt's a big place. Okay, what else was significant? We've got the Nile they worshipped in the Nile. So to attack the Nile River with the blood is very significant. Then the frogs, that's significant. What else would, in a culture like that, in an economy like that, what would it do to have these plagues put on you? Not just the frogs, but all the other things. What would it do? Like, just think of what happened in Toronto if we had a whole bunch of gnats. What would it do? Like if we had an infestation of fleas and flies and stuff, what would people do? Yeah, we'd all kill ourselves with aerosol cans. You know? It would bring our economy to a halt, wouldn't it? Right? It would frustrate everything. You couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't go to a store. You couldn't go in your room. You couldn't go in your bedroom to have a sleep, get away from it. You couldn't turn a fan on. You couldn't turn the air conditioner on. Nothing. You're come to a standstill. And this is what, you have to get an appreciation of how intense this was. How many flies, how many frogs there were in order to get that. This was no small thing. This was huge. Absolutely huge in Egypt to have these things imposed on you. Just imagine trying to wash yourself, to have a shower, and all you do is you get flies and gnats and all this kind of stuff. There's frogs jumping around in your shower stall and that kind of stuff. Just imagine it, how horrible that would be. Maybe some of the shampoo you use might be able to kill it, but nonetheless it would be very inconvenient. Okay, so these plagues are significant because they brought the whole economy, the whole philosophy, the whole wealth of Egypt to a standstill. Okay. The other thing that if these things are going on, it's significant because just imagine you're looking to Pharaoh as the citizens of the country. Pharaoh, do something, and it puts pressure on Pharaoh to make this right, get rid of this stuff. What's he going to do? And if Pharaoh can't do it, what are you going to think about Pharaoh? You know?
Because they thought Pharaoh was God.
Yeah.
But if he couldn't do something about the situation, so he's not God.
He's not God
He's a
anymore, right?
fake.
It dethrones him.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
his position could be dangerous.
Yeah, yeah. And after all this is over with, there's going to be a rebellion. You know, it has that kind of implication afterwards. The people could rebel because now they see what he really is like. Okay, especially, and his magicians are the first ones to go. Okay. The other thing that would happen if you were an Egyptian, the thing that I would put myself in position is, I'm scared of these Israelites. Who are these people? And who is this God that he can pull off this kind of stuff and just take over our country? Who are these people? I'd be scared. Get rid of them, Pharaoh. Get rid of them. I'd have my hand up. Yes, you know, on a referendum. Do you want to get rid of the Israelis or not? Yeah. I put my hand up. Yes. Get them out of here. You know, that's how significant this whole thing is. All right, let's talk about the characters in the story for a second. Let's name some of the characters, okay? Who's the first character, or who's probably the most important character in this one? Yeah, go higher than that.
God.
God. Yeah, okay. All right. God's is the main character here, right? And he's just telling these other guys. Okay, so we have Moses, and who else we got?
Aaron.
We got Aaron, okay. We got Pharaoh. Magicians, okay. Officials. Yeah, they become a character this time. And the lice.
And then the gnats.
Yeah,
The
that's
gnats
right.
are just below
And
them.
Egyptians, okay, they're influenced, they're characters in this too, right? And the Israelites are also characters in this.